All right, got an exciting guest for you guys all to listen to today. We're going to have an awesome discussion. We're actually also friends from high school, so you're going to get into some of the nostalgia of maybe things that we've seen. I don't even know. But it's Daniel Panchevre. We have him live in the flesh, really excited. His life story has been a really interesting journey, and that's why I wanted to bring him on today, because I think that in his life, I'm personally curious because I haven't asked him some of these questions before, and I'd like to know for my own personal gain. However, I also feel that his value will be present for all of you listening as well. So tell us what's going on with you, man.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Dylan. Hey, thanks for inviting me to your podcast. Pretty excited. Yeah, so like you said, went to high school together from San Antonio, Texas, and now I live in Singapore. And it's been a dramatic shift considering from the stateside all the way here in Southeast Asia. And
Yeah.
absolutely awesome. Like what an incredible experience out here. The traveling,
Yeah.
the living, etc.
I love that, man. And like, I want to ask you about that as well. And I wanted to do it kind of in chronological order because I was really curious about that. We haven't caught up. And I wanted to kind of start with the most curious thing that I thought about recently, which is
Sure.
how you even got into the Naval Academy, or like what was that process like for you to make that
Yeah.
decision? Because whenever Joseph told me, Joseph's my best friend, by the way, from childhood, for anybody listening. Whenever Joseph told me, oh yeah, Daniel Panchevre is here, man, we're like good friends. And I'm thinking, what? Like, when did he go there? I don't know why that came out of nowhere for me. I just never would have expected you to go there. So I don't know, what was that like for you, or like how did
Okay,
that even happen?
so that was an interesting concept for me. So in high school, as you remember, I was a little smart kid. I had my shit together, but
Yes, yes.
I
Party
was
guy though.
distracted. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
distracted in the sense that the whole like having outings and doing your thing as a high schooler.
Mm-hmm.
So I initially wanted to go to TCU, Texas Christian University. And because my brother at the time, he went there, or my brother, not at the time, my brother, he went there to TCU, and I was like, that looks fun. I went to go visit him, and I was exposed to the fraternity community, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want.
But
but
okay, okay.
but as I was like, observing my brother, he was a Fiji, and he
What does that
kind
mean?
of so the fraternity is Fiji. Phi Gamma.
Oh my God, I've never heard of that fraternity, Fiji. I've only heard
Yeah,
of like,
Fiji.
okay, cool. Okay, carry on, carry
Apparently,
on.
it's some bougie fraternity in the South. Anyways,
Mm-hmm,
he
mm-hmm,
ended up majoring in fraternity, right? And I saw that he got distracted, and eventually he dropped out of TCU. And well, he didn't
mm.
drop out; he got pulled
All
out by
before
parents.
you were going to college?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, okay.
And me and my brother were pretty similar in our personalities, so I got a little scared that I would fall into a similar trap, right? And I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
be a college dropout or what have you. And those who are like, do your thing, it's all good. But that was not my personal goal.
Yeah.
So coming up to summer of junior year of high school, my dad was like, all right, son, I want you to apply to the Naval Academy summer seminar. And I was like, what? What is that? I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
So I looked it up and I found out it's the military school for the Navy in the U.S. And I was like, I don't know about this, man. I don't see myself being a military guy.
Dude, it's a far side of the spectrum from
Yeah,
what
it's
you're
a
just thinking of like
100%
something
complete
in the
opposite.
middle. Yes.
Exactly, complete opposite of how I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a deal with my dad, and the deal
Mm-hmm.
was he would
Wait,
leave me alone.
did you go there first to check it, to like, whatever that
Yeah.
seminar was first,
So the
and then you
intent
made
of
the deal?
yeah. So the intent of the seminar is to no, I made a deal before I went, and the intent of
Oh,
the
okay.
seminar was to expose you to the Naval Academy and life at the academy and what it's like, right? So I knew it was a military school. That's all I knew. So I was like, all right, Dad, here's the deal. I will do this, or I will apply for it. You have to get in. I will
Yeah,
apply
of
for it,
course.
and I will participate in it, but on one condition: you leave me alone for the rest of the summer, and I can just do whatever I want. And he looked at
Yeah.
me. He looked at me. He was like, "Okay, deal." I was like,
Yeah.
"Shit, all right, yeah, we got something going here. Sounds good." So I applied. I got in, and I went to the seminar, and it was a very rigorous 2 weeks where you wake up like at 6 in the morning. You work out for two hours with all the summer seminar participants or whatever, and participants, and yeah, so you work out, then you would do like educational courses and kind of learn about naval architecture. And we went to their labs and we saw like the huge, has the biggest pool for naval architecture students, indoor pool that they can experiment and actually facilitate how their ships, like their projects work. So that was
Wait,
cool.
was this in Annapolis then? This was up at the school,
Yeah.
right?
It
Okay,
was at
okay.
the school, at the Naval Academy. And
You spent like a
in
week
the
there.
halls. I spent 2
Or how
weeks
long?
there.
Oh, jeez. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
2 weeks. So I remember the first day we got dropped off, and it's just like yelling, and I was like, "Oh fuck, what did I get myself into?" And
Yeah.
so I remember very specifically sleeping in the rack in the dormitory, and I thought to myself, why did I agree to this? Like, I don't know if I want to do this. But then I reminded myself, hey, it's only 2 weeks, and then you got the rest of summer. So
Totally.
gut it out, do your thing. And dude, I had an incredible experience there. I saw myself doing things I never thought I could do, physically and mentally. I never woke up at the crack of dawn every day for 2 weeks straight, right? And I made some really cool like friends out there who had like genuine great personalities and interests, and they were interesting to talk to. And I felt myself stimulated, and I was just like, dude, this is cool. Like, this is super cool. So at the end of the 2 weeks, I got back home from the summer. My dad asked, how was it? And I was kind of hesitant to show my appreciation for that experience.
Yeah.
Because I knew what it was going to lead to.
But you still weren't sure you were going to want to go by that point, even then.
I still wasn't
appreciative.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I was appreciative, but I still wasn't sure. But I remember telling my dad, like, Dad, it was a great experience. And the thing I took away from it was I saw myself doing things I never thought I could do. And he was like, excellent. That's all I wanted for you. Enjoy your summer.
Yeah.
Cool. So come college, senior year, everyone's like, finishing their applications to school.
Wait. So that was your junior year?
Sorry, yeah, junior high school, yeah. So come senior year of high school, everyone's like, doing their applications of college.
Can I actually just say this really quick?
Yeah.
So funny enough, junior year for me, summer before senior year, I was dating a congressman's daughter. Okay, this is Joseph's cousin. Got it. Okay. So I got into Georgetown University to just spend a summer there. So I think I did a 6-week business program there. That's a big part of my life as well, and doing those 2 week, 6 week, whatever, like right in the junior year kind of, gets you to really start to massage the idea. I mean, I lived in a dorm. I experienced college life, the mess hall, some of the touches around college. It wasn't like fraternity and full college year, but it was definitely enough to be like, oh, I know what this could be like, right? Of course, you also get kind of a pre-approval to get into the school if I ever wanted to. I never pursued it in that particular school. But anyway, funny enough, that I had a very similar experience. Okay, so junior year, you're back. Senior year, okay, carry on.
So I go into senior year, everyone's applying to colleges, and I just kind of went back to my habits of enjoying high school, if you will. And then it's at this point that my brother gets pulled out of TCU by my parents because he was majoring in fraternity, right? And so that really struck a chord with me. I looked at that whole situation and I was like, dude, I can see myself doing the exact same thing, and it would embarrass the shit out of me.
Well, how did your parents were they embarrassed too, or were they like?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So was it like a family problem, like at the time?
Yeah.
So
it kind of was a family problem,
Okay.
And
so you witnessed that, and and it's your older. Yeah. So you're younger.
Yeah.
So you're. Okay.
And I have another older brother who's the oldest, who was at Yale at the time.
There are two names again.
Ian and Howell.
Howell is the middle brother.
Howell is the one at TCU. Ian was the one at Yale.
Okay. Carry on.
And so, my Ian, the one at Yale, he set the bar super high, right? And as I'm, observing that, having conversations in the family group chat, and then I witnessed my brother kind of go through this little downfall of partying too much, it struck a chord with me. And I was like, dude, if I go to the Naval Academy, it's going to force me to have my shit together. It's going to force me to be straight. And I honestly think I would benefit from that guidance. So that was my realization. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna apply to like 9 schools. I'm gonna apply to 9 schools, all in Texas. I had no intention of living in Texas, and then a Naval Academy. And I told myself, I was like, if I get into the Naval Academy, I could always leave and go to any of those other schools, but not vice versa. So I'm gonna just shoot my
True.
shot and see what happens.
So wait,
And
just to be clear on for people to understand, applying to the Naval Academy is like so just so everybody understands. There's West Point, which is Army, Naval Academy, Coast Guard Academy. What's the other one
Air
I'm
Force
missing?
Academy.
And the Air Force Academy, which is right here in Colorado
In
Springs.
Colorado.
Yeah, yeah. So all these branches of government have their own universities, and the universities, if you will, their own colleges. It's like a war college. So everything that you learn there is going to be geared to making you an effective officer of that particular branch of the military. So people need to understand that. I think it was like only 1,000 or more per class, a little more shy of 1,000 or so per class.
It was roughly around 1,300 starting, and then it usually ends around to about 1,000.
Okay, yeah. So so for people to understand, only 1,000 people in the country, are selected. Now there's probably classes very similar at Yale and Harvard, but 1,000 people are selected to go to the Naval Academy, which I believe is a difficult application to even to get. Don't you have to have a congressman's signature?
So I'll talk about the process for a little bit.
Okay, tell me. Yeah.
So I didn't realize how intense the process was until I started looking into it, and I decided, and I was kind of behind the curve already. A lot of my peers in my class already finished their applications before school even started.
Right, that makes sense.
Well, shit, I'm going to start now. So you have to so first you submit your application, and then a blue and gold officer, who's essentially like a representative affiliate of alumni to the academy, or a direct parent of an alumni, interviews you. So once you get the interview process, they come to your home, and the whole point of the interview is to kind of also observe your lifestyle, how you grew up, right? And so, if they come to a home that is not put together at all, it's in disarray, and the kid maybe be like unfocused or what have you, that speaks volume. And they will reflect that in their analysis to the admissions. So my blue and gold officer, he came and visited me. His name was Mr. Follock, good guy. His son was a grad of the academy. He did not go, but he was a part of the alumni association, parents, and all that. So he interviewed me, and it was a pretty easy interview in the sense that the questions weren't hard per se. He wasn't trying to like analyze your intellect or or your decision-making process. He was really just trying to feel you out, your character. That's what he was. So he asked a bunch of character kind of questions. After that, you don't know what he says to the admissions. You can have the communication. You can ask them. Sometimes they tell you, sometimes they don't. So after that, your application goes into like a processing stage. And then from there to push it through the processing stage, you need to get a congressional, senatorial, or presidential nomination. And so we have, each state has 2 senators, right? I was like, well, I'm going to go for the senatorial nomination. And because I think that will speak better. The presidential one is actually not super
common.
No, it's actually way more common because if your parent is a veteran, you automatically get a presidential nomination.
Oh,
yeah. So it's a pretty
that branch,
easy,
or
no,
or any branch,
any of the academies you go to. No, any branch. Yeah, any branch. Okay. So let's say your parents were in the Army and you applied to the Naval Academy, you can still get a presidential nomination to the Naval Academy.
Okay, that makes sense actually with the executive branch and I guess how they function their own. Okay. Right.
So my dad was a veteran. He was in the Air Force for 2 years. And back then
I didn't. Yeah, who would have thunk? Okay.
Yeah. He was a vet. He was a veterinarian in the Air Force, and he was called. I asked him, I was like, hey, can we get his presidential nomination? It'll make the process so much easier, blah, blah, blah. And my dad was like, yeah, I was in the military, but like, I like didn't preserve any of that, like memorabilia or communications or
the network that comes with it.
Yeah. How to like go through the network. So I don't even know where to start on that. I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to put a matter in my own hand. I'm going to apply to a senatorial nomination. So you go to their website. The senator's website, and there's a button that says apply for a nomination. So I applied and I got interviewed. Sometimes you don't. So when I went to my interview, I thought it was a I thought it was a good interview. I felt like we were doing pretty well. I felt like
Now,
we were
who
gelling.
interviews you? Someone who represents the senator? It,
Uh, no, so yes, someone who represents the senator. Yes,
yeah,
so not the senator himself because they're
yeah,
busy, right?
they're busy. Yeah.
So I thought the interview went well, but apparently didn't get the nomination.
Oh wow.
So at this point, I was a little discouraged. I was like, damn, like my heart was in it. I was like, I want to go to the Naval Academy now.
Hmm.
I'm pretty set on it, but I don't have a senatorial nomination. So how do I proceed forward? Congressional. That's the next level. So as I was applying to different congressmen in our districts in the San Antonio area, uh, I my dad has a family friend who's good friends with a retired general who used to be the commandant of the Marine Corps who went to the Naval Academy.
Oh wow. Okay.
And yeah, so big wig. Like he
Yeah.
was the head guy of the Marine Corps.
Wow.
And he lives in Fredericksburg, Texas now, and he runs the World War II Museum in Fredericksburg, Texas.
Oh,
Super
okay.
cool
Cool.
museum.
Cool. Yeah.
So my dad set up an I set up a lunch with this guy. So we drove to Fredericksburg, Texas, and we're sitting. I remember we're sitting at lunch. Super intimidating guy. Like he's bald, really in shape, older man, older Caucasian man, really sharp individual, right? So we sit down for lunch, and I was like a little intimidated by his presence, and then we just started talking. Our waters came out, our food came out, appetizers, and we just started like having a conversation. So he asked me a question, and I will never forget this. He asked me a question. The question was, "What are your interests?" Okay. At the time, I am still, but at the time, I was like practicing art. So
Hmm.
after high school, I went to an art school for 3 hours. So for junior and senior year, in the art school, made documentaries, paintings, what have you. It was a really fun like creative outlet for me.
Hmm.
And so I was like, well, that's what I know. I'm going to talk about art. So I explained, I was like, I really enjoy art. I enjoy making it, specifically cinematography. And I've made documentaries and I won awards and, blah, blah, blah. So as I'm kind of talking and he's observing, I feel good. Like I feel good about this conversation. And General Hagee, that's his name, General Hagee, good man. So he stopped me. He's like, let me interrupt you for a second, son. I was like, okay. And he looks me dead in the eyes and he goes, I do not think you would be a good fit for the Naval Academy.
Damn.
I was
So
like,
much
dude, seriously?
resistance. Uh huh.
Yeah. I was like, seriously? Like what is this? Right.
Hmm.
And I looked at him and I could have approached it in two different ways. And mind you, I was 18 years old, right?
Hmm.
So I could have approached it in two different ways. Oh, okay, like yeah, maybe you're right, and just freaking shrivel back into my chair.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I had a whole afternoon playing with this guy, right? And
Yeah.
so I looked at him and I paused for a second, and my dad was like mid bite, and he was like, and then I was like, fuck. So I looked at him and I was like, sir, I respectfully disagree with you. And he just looked at me, silence. You could slice the freaking tension with a butter knife.
Yeah.
Just pure
Yeah.
silence, staring into my eyes. And he looked at me and he was like, "Okay, carry on." So then I continued talking about my interests, talking about art.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, that was fucking bizarre. So after
Yeah.
lunch, he's like, "Hey, I want to show you guys a museum. Let's go for a walk." So we walked around the World War
Hmm.
II museum. Great museum, actually, in Fredericksburg, Texas. It's
Yeah.
a
I'd love
phenomenal
to go
museum.
there. Yeah.
100% recommend it. If you're ever in Fredericksburg, Texas, go to the World War II Museum. You will learn. It's cool. It's observant. It's fun. Enjoy it. Anyways, so after that, on the car ride home, my dad looks at me. He's like, "How do you think it went?" I was like, "Well, Dad, like, I mean, you heard the man. Like, his opinion will matter."
Hmm.
And he was like, "Yeah, all right. Well, the only thing we can control right now is, just continuing the process." I was like, "Yep, you're right." So I applied to 5 congressmen's nominations.
Yeah.
Um, uh, for the first 4, I did not get. And if I don't have a nomination, my application will not be processed. So I was super discouraged. At this point, it was like October timeframe, and my application was due like in November. So
Hmm.
I was like, damn, dude, like I guess this is not in the cards for me. So my fifth guy, Congressman Conseco, who's no longer in office, he said, yeah, like, let's do an interview. Okay. Oh no, actually before that. So I didn't get my nominations. I found out Congressman Canseco was having a fundraiser party at his home. And so I told my dad,
I was gonna say, dude, you gotta like go after it. Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, Congressman Canseco's having a fundraiser party. Let's go. And my dad's like, oh yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
we get dressed well. I put on a suit. I was way overdressed, by the way. Everyone was like super casual. I had a full on suit with a tie. So,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
and
good,
so did
yeah.
my dad. My dad matched my aesthetic too. So it was,
Yeah.
we stuck out like sore thumbs for sure.
Yeah,
We were definitely
totally.
not like invited to this fundraiser, right?
Yeah.
So we just walk in, and Congressman Canseco is Hispanic, and
Mhm.
he is fluent in French.
Oh,
My
wow.
father, yeah, my father was born and raised in France.
Wow.
Dude, they hit it off speaking French. They just hit it off, talking
Oh,
about France,
dude,
talking
that's-
about wines in France, and just like hit it off. It was like I was observing this. I was like, that looks like a good time over there.
Yeah.
And so my dad eventually he's like, hey, I want you to meet my son. He's applying to the Naval Academy, blah, 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 blah. And then I went to go introduce myself, 5 minute, like 2 minute interaction. And 2 days later, I got his office reached back out to me. He's like, we would like to interview you for a nomination.
Oh, man.
I was like, no way. So at this point, I only had
Now,
one
did you
interview.
tell him though, right? Like, hey, I've applied and I've
Yes.
I've
Yes.
specifically chosen you as someone that. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And I was like, and my beliefs match your beliefs, and you have to play the game, man. You have to play the game.
God, yeah.
So and like mind you, I'm 18 years old. Like I'm a kid still. And so I get an email from him 2 days later, and or a day later, one of the two, and I go for an interview, and this with his staff. Interview went well, and then a week after that, about 2 weeks before the whole application
date.
was like due, I got his nomination. I uploaded it to the portal. I processed my application. I was like, all right, fingers crossed. And on New Year's Day, on January 1st, I got accepted to the Naval Academy.
Wow.
And that's when it really hit me, and I was like,
yeah, because yeah.
I was like, all right, that's where I'm going. I'm going to the United States Naval Academy. So senior year of high school, senior year of high school, January during Christmas break, I got accepted.
Wow. Okay. And then how was your conversation with Joseph? Because like, did y'all both know you had the same goal in mind, or was that
so
absent?
Yeah. I kind of found out he was applying too during my process.
Wouldn't you say he was like kind of your competition in a way? Like, because they're only selective, or what, did you never feel that way?
He completely, he 100% was. He was 100% my competition to get into the class of 2017, which was like my class. And Joseph did his thing. Obviously, it was successful. I don't really know the specifics of his process.
He went to a prep school first, and he was class of 2018 because of the prep school, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah,
getting accepted because he was a stellar swimmer, right? So
exactly. Yeah,
he's a stellar swimmer, so he got a swimming scholarship. I unfortunately was not an athlete in high school, so I had no scholarships in that sense. But he had a swimming scholarship, but he had to, on a contingency of him successfully completing a preparatory school called NAPS.
That's right. Yep.
And then after that successful completion of NAPS, he would then go to the following class, freshman class at the Naval Academy, which was the class of 2018.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then, okay, so let's just like say we're fast forwarding. So like when you get to the Naval Academy, like, I mean, you were there 4 years. Like, what were some key memories you think from the Naval Academy that taught you maybe how to be a man or just how to be a better person? Like, what would you say?
So I'll tell you about, so to start your journey at the academy, you are getting initiated through plebe summer, which is the summer after your senior year of high school, before your freshman year of college. Plebe summer. It's about a 2-month program, and the whole point of that program, people compare it to boot camp.
It's boot camp. I thought it was.
Yeah, it's a little different than boot camp, but like same, if you will.
It's scholarly boot camp kind of.
Yeah, it's called.
It's academic. Summer. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's academic focused, physically focused too, and the whole intention of Plebe Summer is to break you down and your any recognition of who you are as a person completely demolish. It is to
Mm,
destroy your personality, your everything, just bring you down, not your personality, but just bring you down to the base foundation level of how to build you up as a good, outstanding person.
hmm.
And integrity, truthfulness, honesty, what have you, right? While getting you physically stronger. So it is a pretty rigorous program. And I remember walking into Alumni Hall, which is our auditorium, and my parents dropped me off. Everyone's saying their goodbyes. And I'm looking around. And I was like, all right, like these are my classmates. These are my peers.
Yep.
Um, I walk into the auditorium and you get separated into companies. There's 30 companies. So you get separated to your company, and then they just give you a huge bag, like a huge white bag that's like the size of a table. And they're like, all right, you're going to go through all these stations, and you are going to pick one of each. And there's people at each station to like issue your gear, your shoes, your uniforms, your hygiene. You can show up there with just the clothes on your back, and they give everything to you.
Wow.
Your
Okay.
your computers, everything. Dude, this bag was so heavy by the end of like that whole like rotation of getting all my stuff. And at the same time, all right, so while we're getting our stuff in Alumni Hall on the first day of Plebe Summer at the Naval Academy, it's a pretty calm but like move with a purpose kind of situation. So it's not
Hmm.
super like, daunting, whatever, but like a lot's going on quickly and you have to just shut up and do your thing. And then at the end of Alumni Hall, once you gather all your stuff, they teach you how to salute, which I thought was interesting. I never thought I would need to be taught that, but sure enough, you do because everyone
Yeah.
messes it up. So right when you leave those doors after you learn to salute, you have your detailers who are the juniors and seniors of the Naval Academy, and they're the ones who are they're essentially training you to
Hmm.
join the brigade of midshipmen. The student body is called the brigade of midshipmen. So to join the
Hmm.
brigade, and right when you walk out those doors, the sunlight is just like blinding you, and you're just like, oh my god, you're carrying this huge bag, and then you're just met with chaos, just yelling in your face, screaming at you, like just saying things that just you're freaked out, man. I remember that walking out there and just getting met with like yelling, and I thought to myself, I was like, oh fuck, dude, like I got to deal with this shit for fucking 4 years now. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
so so we're running around, we're kind of learning the grounds a little bit while we're getting yelled at, carrying our huge bag still, and you can already start spotting the people who are, I don't want to say mentally weak, but like not as resilient, if you will. You can
Mm.
spot the people who are not as resilient, and you can see them crumbling. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, I cannot be like that, right? Like
Oh,
I
that's
cannot be like
great.
that.
Yeah.
So after that huge chaos day, we get shown to our dorm, our area during plebe summer, where your whole company, mine was company 15. Oh no, my plebe summer company was hotel. So hotel was our company name, and it's about I want to say like 30-ish people per company, 30-ish plebes with squad leaders, platoon commanders, and your company commanders. And those are the juniors and seniors of the academy. So I remember like getting in bed for the first time, and you have no clock, by the way, so you have no concept of time, no watch, no clock, no cell phone,
Wow.
nothing. Yeah, nothing. Just your body, yourself, and a new gear to issue to you. And I remember laying in my rack and I was staring out the window and I saw the football field that we work on every morning, just lit with lights. And we don't have blinds on our rooms, which was kind of annoying. So I was just like, wow. So I was just getting blinded by these lights.
Oh
So
my
I decided to
God.
look at them. I started to look at them when I was sleeping. And I asked myself, I told myself, I was like, dude, what did you get yourself into? I was like, this is not for you. And
Yeah.
and then I told myself this one thing. I was like, all right, your goal is to get through breakfast. After breakfast, you can quit. So And so what I did, what helped me get through the summer seminar, or not summer seminar, sorry, plebe summer, was I kept just extending my goal. I was like, all right, get through lunch and then you can quit. Get through
Yeah.
dinner, then you can quit. I just kept doing that, dude. And
Now, were
those like
people
little
quitting?
like,
Was it
what's up?
normal to quit? Like,
Yeah,
were
a lot of people
people?
did. Yeah. Yeah. So the class started with around like 13 to 1400 people. And I want to
Well, I guess
say
that's like the total amount of people, but I was thinking about the exact training that you're at. Like, was it normal for
yes.
someone to sit there and
So
quit there?
about 10% just drop out
Wow.
during plebe summer. Yeah. Some people get hurt physically, and then the academy
Right.
is like, we can't use you anymore. Gone. You're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other people they just collapse. They crumble, and they're like, all right, this is not for us, and they leave too. So in the Naval Academy or military schools, it's not for everyone by a long shot, and it shouldn't be, right?
Right.
So
Totally. This
no
is a weeding
one,
filtering program. It's yeah.
yeah. And no one looked down on people who didn't make it through the program. I was like, all right, cool, man, do your thing. I had some friends who left during plebe summer and they have very successful lives now and they're doing great, so it's not
Yeah.
for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I don't think I would have been proud of myself if I did quit. So that's what it came down to. So I just kept extending my goal, knowing subconsciously I wasn't going to quit, right? But I just kept telling myself, hey, you're free, dude. Like, you're good. You hit your proud mark. Everything's all good in the hood. If you want to leave right now, don't
Dude,
fret it.
wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
so
crazy.
it's 2 months of
I
that,
would
right?
be in the same boat, by the way. I really feel like that's as I just imagine you, but I also imagine myself, and I imagine you and I remember just hanging out with you and stuff. We were definitely more of the like entertaining,
Yeah,
chill.
yeah,
And dude, I
completely.
mean, you come from a good family, bro. Like you could have run your dad's business out from the gate or something. Like, I don't know. I just feel like
Yeah.
some things about your life could have gone differently and they would have been fine. So it's not
No,
like you're quitting to
you're
go
yeah.
back to some crazy, horrible life. Like you would have gone back
Right,
and had a
right.
great life,
No,
So
you're
that's
absolutely right,
the
man.
hardest part.
And arguably, like, my life probably would have been more comfortable sooner if I did do that, right? But
Right.
um, I also wanted to establish myself as a man, as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the
And
challenge.
I think if I just followed my dad's footsteps from the get go, um, I wouldn't have learned what it is to be a man, what it is to own your decisions, what it is to
Hmm.
look at someone in the eyes and be truthful, even if it's like going to hurt their feelings or make a bad situation occur, right? And those things are very valuable, like, characteristic lessons that I firmly believe you will not learn unless you're pushed to your limits mentally, physically, emotionally, and you don't overcome them. I'm a firm believer of that. Those who don't push their limits, those who don't get scared and do their stuff, I think they just fall into the inevitable trap of just being safe, right?
Well, there's a place for those people and it's safety. It's like easy. I mean, honestly, like, especially in America, but like you live in a third world country now. So it's like in
Yeah.
America, you could just make these decisions and then be like, okay, like people are just going to be
So
just
so
fine.
I want to correct you on that. Singapore is actually a super first world country.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. I need to
Yeah,
learn that.
yeah. Have you ever seen a movie Crazy Rich Asians by any chance?
Dude, no, but I've heard of it for sure. And maybe I
Bro,
have,
watch the
but
movie. It's a good movie. Watch it tonight.
yeah.
It's a good movie.
Well, I think of
But
Japan. I think of first world. And I guess, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
yeah,
That makes a lot of sense.
but
It's a
Singapore
rich
is the
country.
financial capital of Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Like,
That definitely makes sense.
yeah.
Because I was reading back in I don't even know, a couple years ago. I was really into the British world trade, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
of
yeah,
course
yeah.
you go into Portugal and Spain, but like Portugal and England were kind of the ones who opened up Southeast Asia as like a
Completely.
trading.
Yeah.
And so then Singapore, I just remember like learning about Singapore then, and when I was reading those history books, this is like 1400s and then
Yeah.
later. So I was always thinking, okay, there's got to be like a financial hub there for banking
Yeah.
and commerce, because the trade was, dude, nutmeg, who we find in our spice cabinet today,
Yeah.
and everyone, whatever, was worth more in ounces than gold
Yeah.
between the 1400s and the 1500s, like during that time. And it was all found in that area, right in the Philippines and then the Singapore, right in the Southeast Asia corridor.
It
And
has
that's
to
where
do with
nutmeg was found. So
accessibility.
yeah. Hmm.
The
So anyway.
inaccessibility to those spices is the reason why like they were so valuable. But
Hmm.
Singapore is one of the trade capitals of the world. We're next to the Singapore Strait, which has the most traffic in the world of
Hmm.
shipping containers and stuff like that, and it's a financial hub. But we could talk about Singapore in a little bit.
Wow. We will.
But
We will.
yeah, but where were we? We were.
Well, summer, and I'm asking about quitting and just the mindset you had for,
Oh yeah,
kind of like not quitting and being comfortable
yeah,
with your
so like
dad or whatever your family
yeah,
life.
like I would have been all right if I left the Naval Academy for sure, no questions asked. But I wouldn't have been proud of myself, right? And I do want
I do
to,
want to say one thing. I was just gonna one part of you who I do think is a fit for the Naval Academy would be the integral part of you, just because I've always known
yeah,
like you were sweet, you're kind, but I do feel that like the truthfulness and honesty thing is kind of big for you. Like I don't find you in
yeah,
like a bunch of
completely.
scandals or whatever. It's so there's certain aspects. I mean, maybe I don't know about it, but I do think that certain aspects of that would be in alignment for you, and then it deals with yourself. So you're having this self battle of
Yeah,
integrity.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So go ahead.
And I saw it all the time. I saw like integrity and dishonor, or lack of integrity and dishonor all the time. And those guys and gals got swallowed up by the internal court system the academy has, and just kicked out the next day.
Wow.
If you lied about anything, no questions asked, dude, you're out of here. Because they know
Damn.
if you're gonna lie about something like, oh, this is my actual homework, I promise I didn't copy. If you're gonna lie about that, then you will probably lie in a much more dire situation if you're ever in combat, right?
Mm,
And you just can't have that, especially in military leaders throughout the whole DoD. Yeah,
damn.
good stuff.
Yeah. I don't know why when you said that earlier, that caught on. I'm like, oh yeah, they teach you like you can't fucking lie. And I just
Yeah,
think about how important that one thing is because people lie to
yeah,
themselves all the time, and it's sort of
yeah,
like not as scrutinized as you would think. And so yeah, you can lie yourself into stuff, and then you can lie to everyone around you about who you really are or what you're
yep,
doing in life. And people lie a lot of the times because they're insecure. So it's
yeah.
just, and when I don't know, it's like if people do it so casually. I went to a program called Landmark Forum, and in this program I was 18 as well. It's funny. I went through a different path. It's like weird, but I was 18 and I was at Landmark Forum because I was dating a girl whose mom was very heavily involved in the seminar program. So I went to this seminar, and one of the key takeaways was your word is your bond. I'd never heard that before from anyone,
Yeah,
right? Your
yeah,
word is your bond. Do not ever say things that you don't actually mean, or that you can't, don't make promises you can't keep. I've never been taught this kind of language. Like I never was
yeah,
told that straight up. I mean, of course my dad kind of did, but it's different, when you hear it from
yeah.
authorities that are
It's also
outside of your
different.
family.
Exactly. And it's also different when your whole environment relies on that, right?
Yeah,
And
yours
it,
was
it
strict.
honestly,
Like that's, yeah.
very strict. And it honestly has bitten me in the ass now. And I'm out of the Navy. I got out after 5 years. I got out about 2 years ago. And now that
Hmm.
I'm in the civilian sector, and having that inevitable trust in someone's word and their bond bit me in the ass. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, um, like my boss. So I have my boss, uh, or actually not my boss's boss. Anyways, so my boss's boss at work, he is and I'm not going to say where I work just for intensive purposes, but it's in the shipping
Yeah, yeah.
industry. But so my boss's boss, in my opinion, I feel like he doesn't have a backbone. And what I mean by
Mm.
that is he will say stuff. So like we're trying to work on getting per diem for those who travel. We travel all the time for work, Guam, Japan, Malaysia, what have you. And so he's trying to like get per diem for us. We don't have a per diem system. And he is just like, he looks at us at meetings and he's like, yes, we are going to get per diem and blah, blah. And everyone's just like, cool. Like, and I trusted, right? He's my boss's boss. Like I'm trusting his word. I'm trusting what he says.
Yeah, yeah.
And it has never came to fruition. And I remember at one meeting, one of our employees asked him, was like, hey, like you've been stringing this topic along for like a year now. What is the answer? and he just like gives us the answers that we want to hear, but it never comes
People
to light.
pleasing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people pleasing, and it just like it really bugs me to my core, and it bothers me. And then like another random example, not as like super intense. Facebook Marketplace. I coordinated to buy.
I love it already. Yeah.
I coordinated to buy a backpack. All right, I bought this backpack. It was cool. It was like $30. It was like a whatever little backpack. I liked the way it looked.
Mm-hmm.
So the person, so I send them the money, and they send me a frying pan, and I was like, In my mind, I'm like, this has to be a mistake. Like this person would intentionally do this, right? So I reach out to the seller. I was like, hey, you sent me a frying pan. They were super apologized. Oh, I'm sorry. Like, we're gonna get you the backpack. Keep the pan. We'll get you the backpack. Blah blah blah. I was like, cool, sounds good, dude. I'm not exaggerating. 4 weeks went by of me like constantly asking this person. I was like, hey, like 5 days went by. I haven't heard anything. I haven't got anything delivered. When I initially set the order, I got it in 2 days. So I feel like I would have gotten it by now.
Right.
And by the fourth week, I messaged this person and I said, look, I just want to know if you have any intention of sending the backpack. If you do not, just let me know, and I will just
literally, you don't even care about the $30. Yeah.
I was like, I will take the $30 loss. It just like it really bugged it. Like it really bothered me that this person out knowingly scammed me, right? And I really think like that bothersome mentality derives from what I learned at the Naval Academy about trust and honesty and integrity.
Oh man!
So that's what I mean by like it has bitten me in the ass sometimes.
I have a comment on that. It was just, I think that for me, okay, so I am someone who has that kind of wiring, but from other ways, not nearly as strict to what you were saying. But so I've run into this exact same problem, and it's weird because
I'm sure with Toro, you've seen it many times.
Oh my God. You're talking about scams, dude. I literally was, but before the podcast, was telling Daniel, like, I thought I was scammed. I thought somebody did something, and I was like, whoa, okay. Maybe he was afraid I was going to scam him. I don't even know. Anyway, it's funny. But the point is like, shit. I mean, I've been hacked before. I've been hacked by giving my information away to a phone call, like a customer service person that wasn't a customer service person. And then they stole money from me somehow. Like it was, and when you get robbed or scammed, like there's a YouTube channel apparently that's like a hacker who hacks scam artists. And so he pretends to be
I
like,
know who you're talking about.
An old lady, right? I'm sure he like pretends to be an old lady. He has a voiceover, I love that though. Cause it's like, it's kind of like showing scammers that, I don't know, getting payback. And I don't know if you've seen The Equalizer 3 with Denzel Washington. Remember he's like, he gets the money back. His it's all about the retirement money, the whole fucking movie. Just like this one guy who got like 300 grand stolen. So it's funny, but I deal with that same thing. And I think that I've dealt with that in a sense of, when things like this happen and it's in your inner circle. So like what you said with your boss, someone called them out. I mean, lovingly probably. We're like, bro, like, you've been saying this for like a year and nothing's going on. Like what's really happening? Right. So it's just a genuine check-in, and dude, hopefully you have a fucking, a superior that is going to be at least somewhat of a leader maybe and open to what you're saying and criticism. But I think that
or even give you the answer you don't want to hear, but at least
that's what you said earlier, which was important. It's the integral energy in you. That's like, I'm not going to say something that it's become hard. I don't know about you if you experienced this. It's been hard to even white lie, like even like, dude, if I just smudge this, like this person will move on and we'll move on. Yeah. But it's almost hard to do that. So you just show up so honest and dry. I've almost become dry where I'm like, nah, this is how I really felt about it. And I'm just being honest, and then but it's like, they're like, damn, that sucks. And they might be hurt by it. But I'm like, I feel fucking better because I'm like, man, I was honest. I told them how I really felt. And I think what it is though for me is that, okay, let's say this is in your inner circle. Somebody just continues to make plans. Like for example, I made a plan with you, right? And I followed through. Like even though it was like a week and a half ago, and a lot could happen in a week and a half. Sure, I could have fucking rescheduled. I could have dick around. Let me waste your time.
Vice versa, I put it in my calendar and I told my wife, hey, I'm busy for Saturday morning.
And I trusted you to do that. Like I actually was like, nah, I'm gonna hit up Daniel. I don't even think sometimes it's so funny. You ever do something, you make a plan with someone and you don't even follow up until like you're there or whatever, and
Yeah,
then they're not
yeah,
there or something. I
yeah,
literally believe people
yeah.
sometimes so heavily that I'm like, no, I told them 6 o'clock Friday, like this is gonna, and then I just show up and then I'm like, wait, you wait, what? Like you're not here? Like how is this happening? So sometimes I've made that mistake, but it's all about
Yeah,
lovingly calling someone out, I feel like, and just being
yeah,
like, hey, here's me and then here's you. So what, like, I just want you to understand, like, you can lie to other people. I've said this before to at least 6 or 7 friends, like, and people.
hmm,
I told this to my brother. I just said, listen, you can lie to all your other friends and you can bullshit everyone else. But with me, just hold your word with me. If you're not gonna make it on
hmm,
time, if you're not gonna fucking, then just have this with me, and it's a practice for you to start keeping your word with other relationships. But with
yeah,
me, your word is your bond, because that's how I want to
yep,
show up with you. And if I ever make a mistake with you, and I want to deeply apologize, I never want to be that person, but I
yeah.
want the same respect from you. And it's the craziest thing. It starts teaching people to kind of think in that awareness.
Completely agree. And like in our life now today, with like, you know, going to your 9 to 5 job or whatever, are there consequences to not having that kind of integrity? Not really, right? It just kind of
It's hard
it
to
kind of
fire
speaks to
people
your
now
character.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but really, it just speaks to your character, right? So people start
Right.
developing a idea of who you are as a person, which could impact you in the long run. But in that
It's
initial
subliminal.
moment, yeah, in that initial moment, no. The answer is no. There's not that many consequences to you um, compromising your integrity, right? But in the military, that is 125% not the case. And like a beautiful example about that, and it's not like super dramatic and all that stuff, but like it could have been. I was in the South China Sea, now called the Filipino Sea, so West Philippine Sea.
I like
Let's
that.
yeah, I'm gonna try to, because China is a different story. But
Yeah, yeah.
anyway, so the West Philippine Sea, um, I was driving a ship in the middle of the night, and there's 320 sailors on the ship at the time sleeping. Majority of them sleeping. Some of them are on watch and doing their thing. And I see a maybe like 40 lights in the horizon, just like all in the horizon, like 40 lights. And I was like, okay, based on what I know in this area, those are fishing vessels. Um, the captain gave me a general course and course to follow, and I have to go through those fishing vessels to follow the course. That's the captain's
Mm-hmm,
orders. And he's
mm-hmm.
asleep, and I'm the one who's supposed to execute that. So I
Yeah.
go to yeah. So I go to the TAO, the tactical action officer, and he is the highest ranking person on watch who runs the combat information center, which is where you fire all the weapons, the missiles, the guns, what have you. They have the tactical picture and control in that area.
This is a
I am the
battleship,
second.
correct?
Yeah, this is a warship. I'm the
Okay.
second person in command. I'm the officer of the deck, and I have my team on the bridge, and I'm directing where we drive, contact management, what have you. And then we have certain criteria that we need to wake up the captain and call him, say, "Hey, sir, we're going to get within this this distance from this vessel. This is my intention. Are you comfortable with my decision?" And he'll be like, half asleep. "Yep, execute. Call me if it changes." And then hangs
Yeah.
up and goes back to bed. So we're approaching this fleet of fishing vessels in the West Philippine Sea, and uh, I reached down to my TAO who's on watch, and he sees the surface picture too on the radar. I see it in person, right? Like actually looking over the ocean. And I'm like, "Hey, TAO, OD, do you see what I see like straight ahead of us, about 40 contacts?" And he's like, "Yep, I see it, blah, blah." He's like, "Yeah, you can just kind of weasel around them and just follow the path and continue to follow the path of the captain." A lot easier said than done when you're looking at it from from a 2D perspective on a screen, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But what we fail to account is that these fishing vessels have huge nets in the
Yeah.
water.
I
They're
was
fishing.
just
That's their
thinking that.
job.
Yeah.
Huge nets in the water that can get caught up in our propellers. That you don't want to run over them, right? It can be a bad day. You don't know
Hmm.
what's in them. And so I was like a little uncomfortable with his like decision. And I was like, okay, like he's the highest person in charge, and he's kind of telling me that we should do this, and it's still following the intent with the captain. So like, I'm gonna execute it.
Yeah.
So as we get closer, I the picture comes more clear to me. It is an ass ton of fishing vessels, a very intimidating amount. Like to where like I go left, I hit one. I go right, I hit
Hundreds.
one. But there has been times where I
100.
have seen over 100 contacts in a 12 nautical mile radius, which is a lot of traffic
Yeah.
in the water. So as we approach it, I had a split-second decision to make, and that was I turned the ship around, call the captain, let him know, have him tell me what to do, and or just go back and forth to the TAO. Those two latter options take time, and the time that's going to take to occur, too much will like elapse, and I'm going to put myself in a very bad situation where I could crash the ship, right?
Yeah.
And I have 320 people who are relying on me, on their safety. They're sleeping, right? They're literally sleeping. If I crash a ship and a huge hole happens on the ship, and that's a terrible situation. So I look to my conning officer, who's the person that drives the ship via verbal commands, and I was like, all back full. So put all the engines in reverse, full. And he looks at me. He's like, and I was like, now. He's like, okay. So he does that, and the ship's like this.
Yeah.
Because it's a dramatic shift of momentum, right?
Yeah.
It's a huge warship. So like when you put that kind of force abruptly on it, the ship will shake. And it's just, so the freaking captain wakes up and calls me. He's like, "What's going on, Odie?" And I was like, "Hey, sir, I made the executive decision to turn the ship around. There's too many fishing vessels in front of us." He has a radar picture in his room. He looks at it and he's like, "Oh my God. Okay. Do I need to come up there?" And I was like, "No, I have it under control now. I am just going to deviate from your course a little bit, but I'm going to go in the same general direction."
Yeah.
Okay. Execute it.
Great.
And, And mind you, like, what did I do? I turned the ship around to avoid hitting other vessels, right?
Right.
Is that like a big deal? Yes, it is. But like, did it need to be like that? Do you need to be like that focused in that situation and make it so dire? Probably not. But the reason why I did, why it came about in my head like that, is the sheer fact that hundreds of people are relying on me for their safety. And that kind of like weight weighs so heavy on my shoulders every single time I went on watch. I always was super consciously aware that I need to keep people safe. I need to drive it correctly. I don't need to be risky just to save an extra 10, 15 minutes. And if it causes to disagree with people, aka the highest person in charge at the time, then I'm going to do that, because that is the situation I see play out. And so back to what we're talking about, back to like, disagreeing and speaking your truth and like being like, sticking to that, and then, justifying it. That's super, 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 super important. It's imperative. And unfortunately, in like the commercial sector and the civilian sector that I'm in now, people are never presented with those kind of like consequences. So it's easy for them to just disregard their integrity just to make everyone happy, put smiles on their face, and just avoid a stressful situation. But in the military, if you did that, I mean, people would die.
Yeah, I'm wondering about the guy that you said that was on awake and he was in his room. Did he when he saw you turning around, he was like, "Dude, what are you doing?"
He was pissed at me. He's like, "What
Okay,
are you
so
doing?
he
This
was
is not what we agreed." And I was like, "Dude, you are not seeing the picture that I'm seeing right now. You're looking at a radar and you see, I can inch by between these two vessels, but they have fishing nets in the water. Like if I chop their fishing nets, we might be okay, but I also destroy the livelihood of these Filipinos. Their livelihood is fishing." And our whole point of being out here, being like the world police, if you will, is to not create more enemies, is to be a safe presence that when people see us in the water, they're like, "Thank God the Americans are here," right? Like we're good now.
Yeah.
And if you do that by running over people's livelihood, their $50,000 nets that they've spent every single cent they possibly have to invest in.
Oh,
what are you
doing?
They
don't got no insurance, bro. Yeah, that's really
okay. So that's kind of a long story about my opinion.
No, but that's I love that. Like I love that story, because it does tell a story of around, doing the right thing, and like again, it's kind of unique that you are the one manning that ship And
Yeah.
so, and it's nighttime, and there's only
Yeah.
one or two people that could be in charge, and the
Yeah.
one of them's asleep. Um,
Yeah.
it's a big deal. Imagine that level of responsibility, and then people dealing with that today, outside, like you just said, in the civilian world, people outside of their word constantly everywhere. It's significant.
Yeah.
It's a significant impact on people,
Yeah.
and how they run their
Mind you,
lives. And then, like you said earlier, yeah,
sorry, mind you, I was 22 years old, right? So if you think of the
yeah,
average 22-year-old, what are they like doing that's so like that requires so much, backbone, if you will,
yeah,
to execute appropriately, right? Like not much, to be quite
yeah.
honest.
Well, it's just training and what you went through. And I mean, so like your time at the Naval Academy, well, not Naval Academy, but like even the time in the Navy.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, you were living with Joseph at the time, but you were
Yeah,
always
yeah. We
like
we
doing
roomed in
these
San
like,
Diego together.
yeah, and then you were doing these like, was it 9-month deployments? Like, I
Yeah, I
felt like
did
you were
the
gone for a long time. Like,
Yeah, I did three deployments, all around like 7 to 9 months, and then my first one was actually I was an American liaison officer with the Mexican Navy, and I was just the American representative on board to facilitate um, international relations around the world. And the
hmm
Mexican Navy had 9 different foreign officers. I was the American representative, and we pulled into ports: China, India, Philippines, Korea, Japan, Singapore, you name it. We pulled everywhere, and we essentially had parties, like receptions. And my job was to just be a good person and interact with these people and have put a good taste in their mouth about Americans. It
wow.
was
So
pretty fun.
then
Yeah,
that's a kick ass, actually. I wonder
yeah, it
how
was a good
did you
time.
apply for that position? Like, were you like,
No,
yeah, that looks cool, or did your commanding officer be like, hey, this is what you're doing?
no, I about 300 people applied for it. I didn't even apply. I actually got recruited into it, and I was selected without applying. Once I said, "Yep, I'll do it," they just disregarded the 300 applicants and gave me the position.
Oh, that's hilarious, dude. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah, it was
That
cool.
must have been a really unique experience, because that's kind of like you almost obviously thinking of United Nations, or it's foreign affairs,
Foreign
right? It's
affairs,
like State
100%. Yeah,
Department just, running things like the way they do, but they do it in their own with the embassies. But that's a
yeah,
land-based thing. But it's funny, man, like, dude, that's cool. That's really cool. I've read a lot about naval history, not just the US Navy, but like naval, like around the world, especially British
yeah,
naval history, given that they were the empire for a while. I mean, Spain first.
absolutely.
I guess, yeah, that's really cool, man. I also went to the Naval Academy when I visited Joseph, and then so I saw the museum they had there and like all that
Yeah, it's a
stuff,
cool
and
museum.
John Paul Jones and the whole
John
founding
Paul
of the
Jones,
Navy,
man,
and yeah, like that stuff. People don't need to know about the founding of the Navy, the U.S. Navy.
the father.
Yeah, yeah, and I also read a book about pirates too, like about how privateers they were American, and they were
Yeah,
like not in the Navy, but they were kind of like contracted, if you will, by George Washington's like private like privateer pirate
militia.
army.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that he was able to correspond with and tell them like, hey, attack it. And they were in the what's the Caribbean Sea? What starts with an M? I forgot. There was like there was a whole bunch of
Caribbean.
battles. It was the Caribbean, but it's like a bunch of battles around that area in Jamaica and stuff, because of that was hitting the British kind of in their own territory. But anyways, yeah, really interesting stuff. And like, okay,
Dude.
what about Singapore in particular? Did
Oh,
you
dude,
port
yeah.
there and then you like, oh, I love it here, or what happened?
So I pulled in here in 2017 with the Mexican Navy on board the Cuauhtemoc when I was a
Okay, so
American
during that
liaison
time.
officer. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
okay.
when I pulled into this country. And actually, it was my first time I've been exposed to Asia in general. And Singapore is kind of like, I don't want to get hate for saying this, but it's kind of like fake Asia in the sense that the primary language is English, everything's in English, and they
Right.
have like 5 million expats out of the approximate 18 million like population here in this country,
Wow.
right? So like,
Uh-huh.
so it is. Anyway, so I pulled in and I was like, I was just I was exposed to this metropolis of these beautiful, huge skyscrapers that were exquisitely built with the lighting and just the architecture. They're just gorgeous buildings, and I was like, wow, like I honestly thought Singapore was not this. I wasn't expecting like this. And so when I pulled into Singapore, I was like, this is a beautiful country. I would definitely like to come here one day. But that was it. That was the
Mm.
extent of my like realization of Singapore. You fast forward 6 years later, my wife gets orders. She's in the Navy as well. She gets orders to Singapore. And
Mm.
I got this information via email when I was on deployment. And she's like, hey, like we're moving to Singapore at the end of this year. And I was like,
Now, why was she
uh,
moving there? Because she's Army or no, she's Navy. I mean,
no,
so
no, she's
why?
Navy as well. Yeah.
But
So
she was
we were
moving
both
there. Okay.
stationed. Yeah, we were both stationed in San Diego. And so the Navy, every like couple of years, your orders change. And so
Yeah.
you get changed around the world. You go to whatever duty station you're assigned to. In her case, she was assigned to Singapore. And I remember receiving this information not well initially. And the reason why I didn't receive it well was because this was like during the second COVID wave. Mind you, I missed COVID altogether. I did not experience COVID because I was out to sea the whole time. So
Holy
COVID
shit.
COVID lockdowns was a foreign concept to me. I never experienced it.
Wow,
I
dude,
only
that's
dude,
crazy.
so I'll talk about that in a
Wow.
second.
Okay. Okay.
That's a pretty interesting
That
story.
is well. I mean, because you're around the world though, so you're experiencing COVID around the world, right?
Actually, you know
Or were
what? We'll
you out
digress.
to sea?
We'll digress to it now. So, November of 2019, we get notified that we're deploying. I was like, okay, cool, we're deploying in 2 months.
Hmm.
Got it. Let's get prepared for deployment. So we end up leaving around January, and my wife at the time, she just got back from a deployment, so I was with her for like maybe like 2 months or whatever, and then boom,
It was
out
kind of
again, which was
honeymooning, and then you're off again.
yeah, which was not ideal. So,
Uh
anyways,
huh.
I was the communications officer, not the communication officer. I was a communication equipment officer. So I owned all the communication equipment. I was in charge of maintaining the radars, the comms, what have you. Everything electronic I owned. And I had a division of 30 people that I was in charge of, which we maintained them. Our job was to fix them, prevent them from breaking, et cetera, et cetera. So uh, I also own the TV stations, right? So I remember watching the news and I see like this like virus in China, and I was like, "Damn, that sounds crazy."
Yeah.
Whatever. I just completely like whatever,
This is
across the
right
world.
before you're about to go, right? So
No,
January.
I just left. I just left.
Okay, so you already left. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so I already left. So I'm in the Pacific Ocean, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and I'm watching news on the TV, and I see about this virus. I don't think much of it. I'm like, cool, whatever, sounds good. Um, and then eventually around that time period, you remember the news networks were just like only covering this like virus that came out of
Hmm.
China,
Hmm.
coronavirus. And so that's all we were watching because we only had access to news. We didn't have like, we don't
I
have
see.
football or, DHL or whatever. We
Oh
didn't have any
man,
of
that's
that.
yeah.
But DHL is a carrier, right? Anyways, so um, the captain pulls me into his office. He calls me. He's like, "Hey, come to my office." Like, all right, yes, sir. So I go to his office, and he was like, "Hey, so what do you think about this coronavirus?" I was like, "I mean, sounds nuts, sounds crazy, but like whatever." And he was like, "Yeah, I feel like it's making people not focused right now." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, maybe." He's like, "Okay, I just wanted your opinion about it." I was like, "Yeah, that was it." So then we got the first case of COVID in the U.S., and that's when I
Mhm.
was like, "Huh, what is this?" I didn't care about it when it was overseas, but once they hit the US, I was like, what are we dealing with here?
Yeah.
So I started asking my wife, I was like, yo, what is this coronavirus? Like, what's going on?
Was
And
she
she
still in San
emailed me.
Diego at the
She was
time?
still in San Diego. And
Okay.
she emailed
Okay.
me back and she was like, oh, I don't know, it's kind of crazy, blah, blah, blah. So fast forward a couple weeks later, I get called again to the captain's office. And at this point, like COVID cases are breaking out in the US. This is
Right.
probably around like March timeframe, beginning of
Yep.
March.
Yep.
And COVID's becoming a thing. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like I find myself just wanting to figure out what the hell's going on. And I'm looking up news articles online and I'm watching the news and I'm not focusing.
Yeah.
And so the captain's like, we have a mission out here and we cannot have these distractions. I was like, yeah, I agree, right? Not knowing where he was going with this. And he looks at me, he was like, I need you to cut the news network and just play movies. Okay. So so then I looked at him, I was like, well, this is kind of concerning, right? Like this virus is occurring
Where
in
are
the
you in
United
the
States.
ocean at that point, though?
So I'm like close to the East China Sea at this point.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm like off the coast of China. And so I look at him. I was like, well, sir, like people need to know what's going on back home. They have families. He's like, yep, and they can look it up online if they really want to. They can look up news articles. But right now, I want to cut the news networks. Okay. I mean, that was my order. Sounds
I
good.
mean, you're what,
You
like
own
the
the
comms director, and essentially, or at the time,
Yeah,
or
I was
you're
like,
head
you
of
own the
comms.
shit, man. Yeah, so let's. Sounds good. So I did that, and then people were furious, dude. They were like ambushing me in the hallways. They're like, sir, why can't we watch the news? So I had to like justify it, right? I was like, oh, the satellites aren't aligned correctly, so we're not getting the right reception. Blah blah. Like, oh, okay. Like, when do you think
Wow,
it's gonna
so
be
you can't
aligned?
even really say the captain didn't announce it or anything. It was just
Well,
like,
because if you think about it, that's a well, I'm gonna get to that in a second. I mean, if you think about
yeah,
it, it's a form of censorship, right? And we're an American vessel, free speech, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah.
So I was just like, "Oh, the satellites are not aligned," and blah, blah, blah. He's like, "Oh, okay, all right, sounds good." So another couple weeks passed by, and like lockdowns are starting to occur in the states. And at this point, I'm concerned about my wife. I was like, "Hey, like, is
Totally.
everything okay? Are you okay? I heard that you have to like
Stay
get
home.
rations. Like, are you taking care of yourself?" And she's like, yeah, like I'm good. Like I stocked up on some things. I don't think it's gonna like we're gonna lock down, but some places are.
Jesus.
Okay, that sounds good. So the captain calls me back into his office, and he called me in the day after the U.S. went to full lockdown, and he was like, hey, there's a lot going on back home right now. I know it's very concerning, and I need you to throttle the news networks. I need people to focus.
Now this is after already 2 weeks of no news, right?
Yeah, no news. So
Okay, okay.
he wanted me to throttle the news websites. So it takes forever to load. And so I at that point I had a personal issue with that. And I looked at him and I was like, sir, that's a form of censorship. Like we're censoring at this point.
Yeah,
And he looks at me and he's like, I know. I need you to do that now. I was like, shit. Like my hands are tied. He's the captain. I
yeah.
was like,
He is the captain. Yeah.
I was like, okay. And so at this point, we were shut off from the world. We had no information coming in. We didn't know what the hell was going on. And I was solely relying on emails from my wife, who was copying and pasting news articles. And I was like printing them out and giving to my buddies because, like,
Oh my God,
yeah,
dude.
I was like, this is what's going on apparently. And I remember being like scared because I was like, shit. And then at this point, once we went to full lockdown, the whole world was kind of going to lockdown, and we canceled all our port visits. So we were out to sea for like 200 days straight. Like we didn't pull in
Wow.
any ports because we were a bubble ship. We didn't have the virus. We weren't
Essentially,
exposed.
right?
We weren't
And you,
exposed to anything.
yeah, yeah.
So have you ever seen the show The Last Ship by any chance?
Not was it a show you or you mean a movie?
Yeah, it's an HBO show. It's essentially about a U.S. warship going out to sea, and a zombie apocalypse happens, and they're like the last ship. They're not exposed to this.
Oh
That's
wow.
that's
Okay.
what I felt like,
Dude,
dude.
oh my
That is
God.
exactly what I felt like. I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" Right? We had no idea what
Yeah,
was going on.
yeah.
So, so we're in this bubble. Do you remember the news scandal about the aircraft carrier that caught COVID? By any
Yes,
chance?
I know the cruise ship, but
Yeah.
I guess there was an aircraft carrier too. Okay.
Yeah, it's an aircraft carrier, a U.S. aircraft carrier, the Theodore Roosevelt. I was with that carrier, and when they pulled into Vietnam, um, we were charged with just protecting them. So we didn't pull in. They pulled into Vietnam because they like needed to pull in, and so we were in charge of protecting them. So we were just like circling, circling, circling. They were there for like 5 days. When they left, uh, we got news that they contracted a COVID case, and I looked at my buddy and I was like, bro, I give this 2 weeks before the world finds out, and this would be pure chaos.
Oh my God.
Sure as shit, man. 2 weeks later, the world found out about COVID. It got leaked or whatever about the COVID on the
On
TR,
that particular
and
ship, yeah.
yeah, on that particular ship. And 800 people out of the 5,000 contracted COVID, and it like debilitated the ship. The ship could not operate without these sailors,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it, almost a fifth of the personnel were out of commission,
Yeah.
and it was putting huge strain on the ship. Right, so they pulled into Guam. They quarantined everyone. They took over all the hotels in Guam, which is a small island They took over all the hotels in Guam, quarantined them, and then our mission completely changed at that point. We're like, okay, like we are now just trying not to get COVID. That's what we're
That's the
focusing
goal.
on. That's the goal. And then eventually, once we returned from deployment, I things were starting to open back up again. You have to wear masks, but you can like go to stuff and social distancing and all
Right.
that. So I never experienced the lockdown. Fast forward a year later, I deploy again. The second wave hits where everyone locks down again. I was out to sea. So I never experienced it, dude. I never
Dude,
experienced
that
it.
is
It was
actually
pretty
a
wild.
really unique take on the whole deal because
It
it's
was
almost
wild,
like
dude.
you were in the best but worst place to be in a way, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we
Because you
were
were out to sea. I
safe.
mean, you were stuck.
Yeah,
I,
we were
I think with
safe, but sorry, what was that?
the rations on the ship, and then you're thinking, oh, well, are they prepared for anything? So they're prepared for however
So
long.
thankfully, we're not concerned about rations per se because we replenish out at sea. So like there
So
will be a
people
huge
come to you
tanker.
guys, or
No, so there'll be a huge tanker. It's called an UNREP, underway replenishment. A huge tanker with oil, with fuel, and with our foods. And we'll go right next to them. We'll be about like 500 yards next to them, driving the same course and speed. And we attach our fuel lines from them. They shoot shot lines over. We get the fuel lines, we plug it in, and we're refueling as we're going. And then we have helicopters picking up pallets of food and our mail from the replenishment ship and then dropping it off on our helo deck, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it's a super
yeah,
cool evolution.
yeah,
So in theory, we never had to pull in a port. We can always stay out to sea, which is a phenomenal concept, but not many countries can do it. China is starting to get familiar with that process by observing us. So
yeah.
whenever we do it, without a doubt, there's a Chinese vessel right behind us, freaking taking photos, video recording. What course are they going? What speed are they going? Blah blah blah, blah. Like doing all these things, just trying to figure out how they can do it. And now they're starting to get it down. But
Wow,
it's a
because
pretty
yeah, it
complex
seems like a
evolution.
very like complicated process of like
It is,
how
yeah.
to
It's
actually
a
do
complex
that.
evolution. It's a very dangerous evolution too. But yeah, that's how we stayed out to sea the whole time. Underway replenishments. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, okay. So that's pretty okay. So then fast forwarding back to Singapore,
Yeah.
where
Okay. So
your wife gets deployed there, but like deployment in the Navy means like you're there and then you're also at a station there. She
so
had
let
a
me
different
correct you.
job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me correct. She didn't get deployed. She her orders got changed. So
Oh,
she was
stationed.
stationed, physically
Yeah.
relocating to Singapore. And so I got this news on my third deployment, and I didn't like it. And the reason why I didn't like it is because I wanted to be home. I've been out to sea for so long. I wanted to be home. I wanted to sleep in my own bed. I wanted to be like, I want to be stationary and like have my life with my wife back in San Diego where we
Yeah.
met. But now she's telling me we're picking up our bags and we're moving to Singapore. And I was like, fuck, dude, like I am homesick. And the fact that I'm just leaving what I consider home just really did not sit well in my stomach. So I
Yeah.
didn't receive it. I didn't receive it well,
hmm
which was very disappointing for my wife because she was super excited about it.
Now,
Eventually,
obviously, when you're stationed because you're married, the Navy knows you're married, so they're like, y'all are up going as a pair. Like there was never a scenario where she was going to go without you or something.
so this is where it gets better. So they tried to, right? But at the end of the day, it's the needs of the Navy. Whatever the Navy needs you, they're gonna put you. They
hmm
try to co-locate married couples, but sometimes it doesn't happen like that.
Oh man.
So my orders were coming up. So then I was talking to my detailer, who is the individual that helps you navigate this process of getting your next order set. And I was like, "Hey, my wife got orders to Singapore, and I need to be in Singapore. I've been separated for too long." And at this point, we were separated like almost 70% of our relationship. We were out to
Oh
sea all the time. So it was not the ideal situation.
yeah.
So I explained to him, I was like, I need to be with my wife. He's like, yep, I got you. We're going to try to co-locate you, blah, blah, blah. A couple weeks pass by, and my detailer unfortunately says, hey, unable to do that. There are no billets to send you over there. You guys are going to have to geo-batch, essentially be married couples separated in different countries. And yeah, but that was for 3 years. And I was like, no way. I do not want to be apart from my wife for 3 years. No way in hell. So I fought tooth and nail to try to get orders to Singapore. The Navy said, no, can't do it, can't support it. So I submitted my resignation. I was like, all right, well, I appreciate the opportunity you presented to me. I had every intention of making a career out of this. But unfortunately, not unfortunately, fortunately, I'm putting my family above all that, and I'm going to choose my family. So I submitted my resignation, got out of the Navy, and then moved to Singapore like a couple weeks later.
Whoa, dude. So that was the catalyst to leaving the Navy. You just said you would have had your life in the Navy, like you would have stayed.
I had every intention of doing a full career, at least like 20 years. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. It was cool. I loved the responsibility I had. I really enjoyed the people I worked with. I made lifelong friends. Everything was great. Sure, the work schedule was tough. Sure, it was hard. Sure, I was out to sea a lot. But like at the end of the day, I enjoyed what I did. So
Right.
it wasn't too taxing to me in that sense. But I was at tooth and nail about being separated from my wife, and I didn't want to do it anymore. So I said, okay, thank you for your time. I sincerely appreciate this opportunity you presented to me, and I will look at it fondly. Here's my resignation, and I popped it in, and it got approved like 8 months later, and then
Wait, you
I
had
moved
to
to
wait
Singapore.
8 months to get that
Yeah,
approved?
yeah, it
But
was a
like
long
you're
time.
not
Yeah.
moved there, or like y'all weren't there yet. She
So we
wasn't
weren't
there
there
yet.
yet. She got the announcement, and then a year later we were gonna move.
Oh, okay. So it's
So,
like you have
yeah,
some time.
yeah, I had some time to like facilitate all that.
God damn.
And
So when did you officially move then?
so I moved to Singapore in June of 2022.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and COVID was still a
And
thing
she's
here, so that was
still in the
interesting.
Navy. She's still in the Navy, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still in the Navy.
All right. All
Yeah,
right.
so
But and
that
then
was
you
a
couldn't you re-enlist somehow? But like I don't know. I guess that's all done and gone now, huh?
yeah. I mean, I absolutely could. I'm in the reserves right now, so
Oh, I see.
if I was called to action, I had to go. So but they usually only um, execute that kind of recall if we were at full out war. Like a World War II was the last. Oh no, the Vietnam was when the last time we had a draft. But when we go to full out war, that's when we're like, all right, we need to up our forces. All the reservists, we're recalling you. Let's rock and roll.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow, that's fascinating. And so, okay, so
yeah,
then life in Singapore for you, your wife, like you guys are,
dude.
what's
It has
what's
been
up?
it has been the coolest experience, bro. I am a firm believer that I think everyone should live in a foreign country for at least 2 years.
Hmm.
1 year, you're a little homesick, you're getting your bearings, all that stuff. The second year, you really start to establish like a network in your new country with your friends, your family, your community, and you know your favorite spots. Like you really start to learn the new place you're living in. So like when we moved to Singapore, it was uh, I remember stepping off the plane and I stepped into this incredibly hot, humid environment. We're in the tropics. We're 1 degree above the equator.
Oh,
And I looked at my wife. I was like, "How long are we here for?" And she was like, "Oh, this is pretty bad." I was like, "Dude, this weather's terrible. We came from sunny San Diego, the perfect weather,
yes, it's the perfect weather. Yeah,
straight to the tropics." And I was just like, "Oh."
yeah.
But I remember when we lived in a hotel for about 3 weeks as we were finding an apartment out here. And I remember living in a hotel, and my wife went to work. And for the first time in my whole life, I didn't have a sense of direction. I didn't have something I needed to do. I didn't have someone telling me what to do. In high school, in the middle school and elementary, you go to school, your parents tell you what to do, right?
Hmm.
I went straight from that environment to a military college where like they told you when to eat. They told you when to wake up. Like they told you what to do. Then I
Yep.
went straight into the Navy. Same thing. And so I got out and I had free reign to do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
And while that sounds super awesome and super appealing, it was difficult for me to adjust to that.
Hmm.
And I kind of fell into a little I don't want to say depression, but I did question a lot of things. I was like, what am I doing? Like my wife leaves for the day and I'm in this hotel room and I can do whatever I want, but like I don't know what to do. So I kind of fell into a little like sloop, right?
Yeah.
All my friends that I made in the Navy were gone. All my friends back home, can't
Mm.
communicate to them, 12-hour difference, gone.
Yeah.
So like I felt super isolated, and kind of scared, honestly. I was like, dude, I don't know if I
It's
can
like
do this.
purposeless, like lack of
Yeah, yeah,
direction. Yeah.
yeah. And so, and then finding a job. I wanted to find a job. I tried to find a job right away, but dude, finding a job overseas when you're only here for a couple of years, most companies don't want to hire you. You either have to express that you have every intention of being here for a couple of years, for like 5, 6, 10 years, and then a
Yeah.
company will actually seriously consider you. But whenever I was applying to companies, they asked me, how long are you in Singapore for? And I was like, oh, 2 to 3 years. They didn't like
Yeah.
that answer. They were
Oh
like,
my
okay,
God.
well, we don't want to invest in you if you're gonna just take what you learn from us, boost up your resume and then dip out.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. So I wasn't getting any movement on that. So that sucked too. That really like kind of made me feel insignificant. So my wife came home from work one day and we're in a hotel room and she's like, let's go look at dogs. And I've always wanted a dog growing up. I never had one as a kid, and I've always wanted a dog. And we were actually going to get a dog before we got this news for her going to Singapore. And by the time we were going to get him, he was ready. We went through a breeder. By the time he was ready to pick up, 4 months later, we were going to move across the world. And then he had to go to a 2-month quarantine in this country. And I was
Oh
like,
my God.
that's no way to get to bring a puppy into this world.
Hmm.
By the time I get the puppy out and he's like living with us, he's gonna be 7, 8 months old. And he's gonna be traumatized. Have no training, no potty training, nothing. He's gonna be a traumatized dog that was in a facility, and that's mean. So I talked to the breeder. I was like, "Hey, this is our situation changed. Unfortunately, I could not get the dog." And that really sucked for me, dude. Like I was preparing for this dog for 2 years. It's like this
Wow.
was a very premeditated decision, right? And so my wife came home from work. She's like, "Let's go look at dogs." I completely dismissed it. I was like, "No, I don't want to. I don't want to do that." And we went to go to a dog shop in Singapore, and I saw my little dog Ponyo, who you met him earlier,
Mm.
and dude, I felt like a resurgence of life just come back into my body. I just felt like whole again,
Yeah.
and I was like, "All right, we're getting this dog. This is what we're doing." So we
Wow.
got
So this dog like saved you in that moment.
he saved me in that moment. And then we moved into our apartment in Singapore. We live on Robinson Key, which is a beautiful neighborhood. And right on the river, we have a gorgeous view. And the day we moved in, we got all our stuff delivered. And I looked at my wife. I was like, all right, tomorrow we're picking up our dog. We got to puppy proof this place. So we were running around with our heads chopped off all day to get our bed situated, to get the everything, blah, blah, blah. Puppy proof this, but the best as we could. Picked him up the next day, and then it's been smooth sailing since, man. Yeah,
Wow. And then the job thing, like you figured that out, like
yeah.
somewhat after that.
So about like 6 months after moving here, I discovered a company that required certain credentials and like clearances and stuff that I got through the Navy,
Uh,
and it worked out in my favor. And they were like, "Yeah, we also need someone who's an American citizen." And I was like, "That's me."
wow.
And I interviewed and I essentially got the job right in the interview. He was like, all right, we're going to hire you. HR will be out to you. I was like, shit, excellent, sweet, looking forward to it. And I've been in this company for, a year and a half now.
Shit, that's still lucky,
Yeah.
dude. Like considering the
Yeah.
job
Yeah.
market,
Yeah.
like you said.
Yeah, it was pretty
Damn.
wild. I applied to like 30 companies, bro. And I got
Wow.
two, I got two kind of promising, no, three promising way forwards with PayPal, Amazon, and Rolls Royce. And they kind of fell through once they figured out I wasn't here long enough, and did the second round of interviews, and it's just like I was like, okay, all right, like it's not happening. But then I found this company I'm currently working at right now, which I will kind of remain anonymous, just because I talked about it a little bit. But it's in the shipping industry, and yeah, it's been great. I've been making pretty decent wage out here, and it's really opened our ability to travel a lot, because before we were just on a single income and we didn't want to waste money on tickets and all that stuff. And once we started getting my income, um, we really realized how close Singapore is to all these beautiful countries around us:
Hmm.
Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Bali, which is Indonesia, Philippines, etc. And they're like 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour flights max for like $100, $150, super cheap flights. And
Yeah.
we would just travel on the weekends and go explore these countries, stay in hotels that weren't that expensive either. And dude, it was uh, like being over here has really opened my eyes to like different cultures and different ways of life, and it really has changed my appreciation for for everything from like doing laundry to ordering food. You know, like everything,
Right.
man. And so that's why I'm a firm believer that I really think it would benefit an individual in every way possible if they live overseas for at least 2 years. No
Hmm.
less than that. No less than that. I think you do less than that, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Wow, that's inspiring me. Like, I want to go at least visit you while you're there.
You should, man.
You
I got a
know,
place for you to stay.
that's cool. I was
Yeah.
because I'm gonna make one big trip. I was like, I'm gonna make one big trip in between January and February. I'm trying to figure out what it is I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bring my girlfriend with me.
Sweet.
But
Actually,
so
you know where you really should go, dude.
mm,
Right now, Japan. It's a 9 hour flight from San Francisco. It's not too bad, and the yen is at the dollar is the highest it's ever been against the yen, ever. So your dollar will go super far in Japan right now, and it's a
wow,
beautiful first world country. I absolutely love Japan. I 100% recommend everyone go to Japan. It's gorgeous in every single way possible. The food, the cuisine, the person, the people, the culture, everything. Um, if you are
damn.
looking for a big trip like that, Japan.
Yeah, I
I'm
was
telling you,
thinking
man. Do
Asia.
it.
Like, I was like, I want to go to Asia. Like, I've been
Yeah.
thinking about like my friend's going to India. Of course, Joseph lives in Hawaii, but he's going to be on deployment potentially. Well,
Yeah.
we know he's going to be on deployment at this point, in January. And I was going to go visit Hawaii again, kind of just visit
Yeah.
him again. But he's already visiting me, so it's like I don't know. I was like, I'll go somewhere else. But
Oh, you
I'll.
could stop in Hawaii for a little bit, do like a 3 day layover there, and then
That's
freaking continue.
true.
It'll break up your journey because the 9 hour flight is pretty daunting. The
Yeah.
flight from San Francisco to Singapore is like 14 to 16 hours.
Right.
That is brutal,
Yeah.
especially like in the economy seats. You're just like,
Oh my God.
but
Good
the
point, dude.
yeah, but breaking it up with stopping in Hawaii for a couple of days, dude. Yeah, if time permits, even if Joseph's not there, hang out with Carrie. You know, have a good
I
time.
know, same thing. She was saying that she was going to be there. Yeah, so I might actually plan a trip. I'm serious. I might actually plan a trip to Singapore, which I'll let you know because I'd rather
Yeah,
be there
absolutely,
with a
man.
friend and then be like introduced to people. I don't know. That'd
Yeah.
be dope. That'd be dope. Actually, I would
If
love
you
that.
do come in that time period, I will be a new father, so the
Wow, I
house will
never
be a
even knew she was
little.
pregnant.
Yeah. So
Wow,
we're expecting next month for him to pop out. I'm actually going to get my go bag ready this weekend. So it will be a little
dude,
chaos,
congrats! I
but
had no clue. That actually is that news to a lot of people, or did
so
you
you
announce it? I
know,
don't know.
so I did not announce it. I'm only telling like people and friends and all that stuff, and whenever it gets brought up, because I want to protect our little guy from this crazy world we're in
Yeah,
and identity theft. And when I see parents being born, new children being born, their parents post on Facebook immediately before even leaving the hospital, which like that's their thing. Cool, do your thing,
yeah.
like
I know.
100%.
I've always thought about this. Yeah.
Yeah, but what do they post? Their name, they geotag the location, their exact birthday, the time they were born, the country they're in, right? All of that,
Dude, that's
everything, right?
crazy. That's yeah,
And it,
yeah.
and if you think about it,
Hmm.
what information do you need to hack into someone's bank account? What city were you born in?
DOB
What was
and
your
birth
what was,
certificate. Yeah.
they just go to the parents' Facebook, scroll down a couple of years, find the photos, and it's all right there, dude. And I read a lot of articles about millennials are experiences with older millennials are experiences with their kids who are like 14, 15. They want to open a bank account for their kid, but the kid has 100 grand in debt already because someone stole their
Oh my
identity.
God,
Their
dude.
credit is absolutely smashed, and they get a unfair leg of this new world. So to answer your question, no, we did not announce it, and I didn't want to announce it because I don't want random people to be like observing my life and it potentially harm my child. So, which is another
Wow.
reason why I purged my social media. I looked at my social media and I was like, who who on here do I care to be on here? I
Right.
had I had 4,000 friends on Facebook. I don't know 4,000 people. I barely know like 200. So I purged my Facebook from 4,000 to 600. I was like,
Wow.
if I have the way my criteria was like, if I haven't talked to you in 2 years, then there's no reason for you to keep up with my life. Period.
Yeah.
So I purged it. And then I also purged my photos. And I was like, I am going to delete photos every new year. I'm going to delete the previous, I'm going to archive the previous year's photos because there's no reason someone looks at a 30-year-old man and is like, I want to see what this guy was doing in high school.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't need
Yeah.
to look at
Yeah.
those photos
Yeah.
at all. And so my social medias are very like dry in that sense.
Yeah.
And same with Instagram. I had like, like 1,200, 1,500 followers and I dropped it down to 400. I was like, I don't want people to be watching me who I don't know. Right.
Yeah.
And I also read another disturbing article. If you have over 300 followers, friends, what have you on social media,
Mm-hmm.
the odds that your photos were downloaded onto another person's computer is 85%.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's concerning, especially if you are putting personal identifiable information of your child on your social media page.
Totally.
Right?
I've always thought about that. Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I've really shifted my mindset when it came to social media as kind of as soon as I found out I was going to be a father.
I mean, someone maybe skeptic, knowing some of the bad
Yeah.
people in the world, and like, yeah, no, I can totally
man.
get that.
It's
It's funny. I have
a place, dude.
my whole media is like all over the place. Like,
Yeah,
but
you're
sometimes
also,
that's so
a
like,
media personality. That's
what I was
different.
gonna say.
You're a
That's what I was gonna
personality
say.
too. That's part of your job, right? I'm not a personality. I'm just a normal dude just doing his thing. And so I don't need, Joe Smith from 2016. I met at a bar in a nightclub and like sat with him
Yeah.
for 3 seconds to be my Facebook friend for the next 20 years. You know what I mean?
Totally. No, I actually went through this when I was 21. I purged. I did similar where I was like, I'm just gonna eliminate all these people from my accounts just because that's what I just figured that. But I think that for me it was like I wanted to do that because I was cleaning up my Facebook and my Instagram for more potentially great connections, I think. So I was inviting new people. It wasn't like I was, just like, oh, I don't want to deal with anybody, or like I'm afraid of identity theft. I haven't had that really happen, but I've had some, like I said, I've had a scammer like take money from me somehow. But that shit happens,
Yeah, it does happen. There's only so much you can do to protect yourself, right? But it's kind of like exhausting to like operate like that because at the end of the day, you just want to be able to like relax and just do your thing and not have to worry about a potential threat coming to like derail your life financially or even emotionally or physically. Hello, my love. It's okay. Oh, I'm almost done. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Ponyo can stay in here. Hey, buddy, want to say hi? Yeah. Yeah, good boy. So this is the little boy who saved me.
Yeah.
Okay, you can just work. But yeah, man. So it's just when it comes to social media, you got to be a little careful.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially exposing a child to stuff like that.
Yeah, I hope people take that into consideration. I feel like definitely, man. Like we're gonna have to do like a part 2 or something too, because there's a lot there. We could touch on a lot of things that you're going through, and then of course, anytime that because I already know there's probably some level of like business in you and potential things that you're trying to do. So anytime that you feel like you have something to talk about or an exciting thing that you're working on or project, I'd love to like talk about it with you.
Yeah,
people who
I'm
are
working on
my
my real estate license right now, and it's funny. Like I don't really have an intent to go into residential real estate, but I am going to buy a house this summer, and this is the psycho in me. I want to know the process in and out, and I want to make sure I understand what is going on. So how do you understand that? You learn it, right? So I'm going to get my license just so I learn the process and I know how to approach it and go from there.
Ooh,
probably a little
I like
extra
that
kill.
mindset.
Like
it's overkill, but
extra kill. It's definitely overkill for sure.
Yeah.
But it's I enjoy it. I enjoy learning new things, and it's fun. It's like it's a
but
hobby
can you sell real estate? Like, will you kind of be licensed in Singapore or like?
No. So this will be in Texas.
It's all American based, Texas. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Singapore, you have to be a Singaporean to be
I'm sure some
or a permanent resident to be a licensed agent. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's exciting. That's exciting. No, the world of real
Yeah.
estate's going to get like crazy and just like super fun too.
Yeah, especially with the
Um,
interest rates starting to come down, man. It's wild.
yeah, buying a house is becoming fucking insane. People are putting all this cash down, or they don't have to put as much down because their interest rates are so high that cash down is now becoming like less.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's crazy what we're
Yeah.
witnessing. Yeah, man. I mean, again, yeah, I do appreciate your time and everything that you're chatting about, like your stories, your life, everything. I hope people tuning
Yeah.
in also loved it.
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, it was just cool to catch up with you. We haven't talked in years, really. So, but and all in all, like, love my life right now, doing great. It wasn't always like this, right? It was, it was kind of shitty, right? But you do what you need to do to like get there, right? And if you do it with integrity, then you're eventually going to get there, and it's going to be right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, my 2 cents is live in a foreign country for 2 years at least. 100%
Yeah.
recommend it. It's a beautiful, phenomenal experience, and you're going to learn about yourself in a bunch of ways you never thought you would. And then,
Yeah, we covered a lot. That we covered
yeah,
integrity, like your life journey, overcoming challenges. Like to me, getting denied so many times with trying to even get into the Naval Academy, like, it's just like the perseverance, the cunning energy it takes to be like, oh, I'm gonna go to this guy's fundraiser. Like, it's funny how when you put your effort into things, kind of God shows up in a way and kind of like lines things up. Like your dad speaking French, this guy speaks French. Like I don't know. Sometimes I find that as like that's a God thing, dude. That's just
yeah.
like things like
There's only
that.
so much a coincidence can occur. I am
Yes, yes,
completely with you on that, 100%.
yeah. So it's cool. I love that. But so like so many lessons, I think, just in your life story alone. And then God, it's crazy exciting to think about what you're doing now with Singapore and just like I already have a feeling that something greatness is gonna like just bestow itself on you somehow, and like you're gonna be like, I'm gonna
I
continue
appreciate
on
that.
this fucking journey and like do something big, and I don't know what it is, but that's gonna
Yeah,
be
neither
really
do I.
exciting too.
That's the fun part,
The questioning, bro. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I'll close out the podcast for now for everybody tuning in. If you have any other last words of wisdom that you think that people should know, either about you or just like about life in general, like something that you've learned.
Yeah, just be a good person and have good intentions. That's all it comes down to.
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do that, then you don't get fucked over. That's another thing. Protect yourself.
That
Protect
is another
yourself.
thing. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Yeah.
People will take advantage of you 100%. Yeah. And if you
But
are,
if you, well, I was gonna say, if you show up with integrity, like, and you show up with good intentions, dude, so much miracles can happen. Like, I mean, you're in a foreign country, so you have to witness that in front of you.
yeah,
Like, you're like,
yeah,
dude, I could have not trusted that, or I trusted this person, or thank God I met that person because they led me
yeah,
to this thing. So much of life is a journey of like trust and like having an open heart, but then also having yourself be good, and you will
yeah.
attract also that goodness in others.
And an appropriate amount of skepticism, right? An appropriate amount, not a detrimental amount. Yeah. So it's a
I know,
fine
right?
line. But yeah.
Yeah, then you stay stuck.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was great. It was great talking to you, Dylan, man. It was good catching up. I'm super happy to see where you're at right now. I've watched some of your podcasts, and it makes me happy to see that you're in a good place and you're doing well. And I look forward to catching up again.
All right, bro. Same goes to you. Appreciate you tuning in, and anyone else who's tuning in. You guys are appreciated. So
Yeah,
all
I
right.
know that. All right,
Have
peace
a
out,
great
brother.
rest of y'all's day. Peace.